I'd like to call this meeting to order of the regular Yankton Board of City Commissioners. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Sarda. Here. Burdick. Here. Gross. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner-elect Benson. Here. Maibaum.
Here.
Minor.
Here.
Moser.
Here.
Hoffner.
Here.
City Manager Nelson.
Here.
City Attorney Denberger.
Here.
We established a quorum. We'll continue with our business and welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to our meeting. Hope you have some kind of fun. So before you have the minutes of the April 9th regular meeting and the special meeting of April 13th.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded to approve those minutes. Any discussion?
Yes, I have one. There is a number 9 that appears in front of the Chamber of Board of City Commissioners. Is there a reason that number 9 is at the top? If not, I would ask that that be removed and cleaned up.
I'm sure it's probably a mistake. I'll look at it and we'll get it corrected. So.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We have 2 proclamations this evening. The first one is for National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas all children deserve to grow up in a caring and loving environment, yet across America, hundreds of thousands of children are neglected and abused each year. And whereas child abuse prevention is not only a community problem, but a nationwide problem, and finding solutions depends on involvement among people throughout the community and our nation, with some of the first steps being taken at a community level. And whereas statistics of children who are abused and neglected increase each year, and whereas the effects of child abuse and neglect are lasting consequences and are felt by the entire community, and whereas our communities are stronger when all citizens are engaged in preventing child abuse and are involved in supporting families to ensure that every child grows up in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment that is free from abuse and neglect. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among law enforcement, schools, social service agencies, religious organizations, and each member of our community. And whereas all citizens should become more aware of child neglect and abuse and its prevention within the community, and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. Now therefore I, Jake Hoffner, the Mayor of Yankton, South Dakota, do proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Yankton, South Dakota, and I call upon all citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to prevent child abuse, thereby strengthening the communities in which we live.
Appreciate it.
We have one more proclamation this evening. A little bit of happier note. The proclamation for Science Olympiad teams. Whereas Science Olympiad requires preparation, commitment, coaching, and practice throughout the year. And whereas teamwork is a required skill in most scientific careers today, and Science Olympiad encourages group learning by designing events that build alliances. And whereas the Yankton Middle School and Yankton High School Science Olympiad teams continue their dominance in state science Olympiad contests. And whereas both teams won their respective divisions, which allows them to travel to the National Science Olympiad competition. And whereas this marks the 34th year in a row that Yankton Middle School has won the state tournament and gone on to compete at the national tournament. And this is the 31st year that the Yankton High School has won the state tournament, has gone on to compete at the national tournament. And whereas there has been middle school National Science Olympiad tournaments for 34 years and high school tournaments for 33 years, and now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Jake Hoffner, do hereby thank all of the team members, coaches, sponsors, parents, guardians, and fans for all the hard work and effort put in to earn the state honor, and to wish them good luck as they participate at the National Science Olympiad competition on May 18th and 19th. By the way, we have a plaque for you. We just,
Thank you very much.
yeah, you want a picture?
Come on down, guys.
Quite an organization. Wow. This time we'll move on to number 4 under routine business with the city manager's report.
Honorable Mayor, members of the commission and public and staff, lots of public left. Just a couple things here. I want to welcome Commissioner-elect Benson to our team. We'll be swearing her in along with the other 2 newly elected commissioners, or re-elected commissioners, Commissioner Sarda and Johnson, on May 14th. At that time, if we have a full commission present, we'll also be taking our commission photo, so we can have that on our website and put that up for the public. So please wear your Sunday best for it. The second meeting in May will be conducted, you'll talk about that during consent agenda tonight, will be Tuesday, May 29th, due to the Memorial Day holiday, which is, as you know, the 28th on the second or the fourth Monday of the month. So please remember that. We do have a work session scheduled as well that evening. Also wanted to announce and wish good luck to Tanya Farrell. I don't know if she's still around, but Tanya has put in her notice that she will be moving to Omaha as her husband is pursuing some ventures there. So she will be missed on our team of department heads and at the library as well. Many of you, if you have driven down 2nd Street today, you saw a lot of trees missing already. Crews are taking down trees along Walnut to prepare for the Walnut Street construction tomorrow. For a portion of the day, Walnut will be closed between 3rd and 4th. We also have with us this evening, helping us out, Officer Brian Newmeyer. So thank you, Officer Newmeyer, for helping us out this evening. If there's no questions of me, I'll let you move on to your business.
Amy, in regards to the trees, as the project progresses, a lot of those will be replanted, just more appropriate trees for
Yes, more
downtown
appropriate
area?
trees for the size, and they'll have the appropriate beds. And there's actually going to be more trees in the end than there are currently now of different species and varieties of species. So in the end, the project will have a lot more green spaces and greenery. But for a while, for a minute, it's going to look a little bare, and the first couple growing years are going to look a little bit sparse. So we need people to have patience when they take a look at that project.
Any more questions for Manager Nelson? Now we'll move on to number 5, public appearances. Dick? Yeah. State your name and then.
I'm Dick Thompson from Mayor Signs. My wife and I bought Mayor Signs about 3.5 years ago, so it's been a new adventure for us. But what I'm here tonight to talk to you about is to ask that you consider a possible modification to the sign ordinance. Today, the sign ordinance, I believe it's section 27-77, does not allow for any signage that is on trailers. I'm asking for you to consider a change to that. I'm not asking for it to go back to the way it was like the Wild Wild West a few years ago. In particular, the reason that I'm asking is that we have a Daktronics electronic message center that's mounted on a trailer that we use primarily for demonstration purposes. We have customers that come to us are interested in possibly purchasing a Daktronics type sign. They ask about doing demos. We go out and we do those, and typically those are a 20 or 30 minute demonstration, so it's not a big deal there. But what we've had is a few customers have asked, is it possible for you to leave the sign here, let us trial it for a few days or a week or two to see, first of all, does the software comfortable for them to use, and the other thing is to get a feel for, does the sign actually give them any benefit. So I'm not, like I say, I'm not asking that you completely allow all signs on trailers going forward. In particular, I would ask that maybe you consider temporary usage of signs on trailers, maybe a 14 or 21 day period. I would suggest that the signs have to be licensed, or the trailer has to be licensed, has to be in good working order. If you want to incorporate some kind of an inspection to that, I think anyone that would be wanting to do that would be okay with that. And I also think that you could go ahead and do the typical permit fee, like putting in a permanent type sign, which I believe is $20 for that. So that's my request. I don't know if you have any questions regarding any of that. I'll be glad to answer those for you if you do.
I appreciate it, Mr. Thompson. I think that we're already aware of your situation, and I'd hope that we could look at all possibilities if there's something we can do that's still with the mind, obviously, safety and aesthetics in mind, and hopefully come up with some kind of a compromise we don't want to, last thing we want to do is hold back some businesses from doing their job. So I know when we first did it, it was pretty rough shape. You saw that, but
I understand that and appreciate that. I mean, I like driving up Broadway and it not looking like a junkyard in spots driving up through there.
And if there's possibility of guys, I think we're already in action as the staff, and we're looking into possibilities from skirting the trailers to something that just more aesthetically pleasing, and not, obviously the number one concern is not compromising safety, whether it's where it's positioned and stuff. So I appreciate your coming forward and definitely looking into it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hey, thank you. Anybody else? This is the time and place for public appearances that not on the agenda. Anybody, please step forward. If not, we'll move on to consent items. Number 1, establish a public hearing for the sale of alcoholic beverages for May 14th. Entertain a motion to.
Aren't we going to take all of them at the same time?
No, we're going to take it. There's only 4 of them, so we'll do them individually, and they're just a work session. So Just a few of them.
This is not a work session, this is a,
No, the whole, you're talking about the consent items?
yeah.
We'll take them individually tonight.
So
Second.
moved. Or do we already have a first?
No.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2 is the consideration memorandum 18-80 for application for Habitat for Humanity.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3 is a consideration for transit merchant license memorandum 18-81.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And number 4, setting a work session date for May 29th at 6 o'clock. That'd be that Tuesday, coinciding with our regular meeting on that Tuesday.
So moved. Second.
I don't know if we need a motion on that, but thank you anyway.
Oh, then I have, I'm sorry, I have a question about that. The
Yeah.
Mount Marty Water Tower, is that what I think it
Yeah.
is, or can you elaborate on that, please?
That's what it is. So, as the commission is aware, Mount Marty, the sisters lease land to the city for us to have our water tower on, and Mount Marty has asked if we would be interested in pursuing either having something painted or a wrap put on the water tower to promote Mount Marty College. And so Chad Eckroth is putting together some information. We're not sure that he'll be ready by the 29th, but if he is, that item is something we'd like to talk about. If that doesn't take the whole time, I'd also like to follow up a little bit on our strategic plan and the outcomes of that as well.
Okay. Moving on to old business. Number 1, this is the time and place for a public hearing, second reading of ordinance 1007 regarding sidewalk width. Discussion or motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions on this in reading this, and maybe I missed it. It's a lot of reading. This is basically new property moving forward, and then also is it commercial and private, or could you clarify what this ordinance would?
Yes, this would be for all property, new property moving forward, new development.
So business and
Yes,
Home.
yes.
And is there anything that stipulates if a new property is built and it's adjacent to a 4-foot sidewalk, the new property is going to have to be 5, so you have a foot difference?
Yeah, and there's language in there to enable us to make that decision depending on what location, what circumstances are on each side of it.
Any more questions? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdig.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to new business, number 1, consideration of memorandum 18-84 and resolution 18-25 sidewalk reimbursement.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Ferdig.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye, motion carried. Number 2 under new business is a bid award for utility vehicle, memorandum 18-75 and resolution 18-23.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Gross.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 3 under new business, bid award for a skid loader. Consideration memorandum 18-76 and resolution 18-24.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Al, can you clarify, we talked a little bit about that perpetual care fund for the cemetery. Could we in fact use those funds for a situation like this where we need to purchase a skid steer loader, but rather than moving $11,600 that's currently budgeted for the Phantom Memorial Park Trails replacement, which if you've walked on it or if you've had a kid in a stroller pushing it on some of those trails, they need to be replaced. Are we able to tap into the perpetual care funds for something like this?
You can use a perpetual care fund for maintenance, including capital. If the expenditure is over 5,000, and I'm not seeing my note here, but I do have it with me tonight. So if it's over 5,000, you also have to publish at least twice your intent to do so. So it's not that you can't do it. The commission has in the past refrained and said, no, we're not going to spend down the perpetual care. But that's, you as a commission can do that. And I believe the state code is anything above 50,000 can be spent. 50,000 is basically untouchable. The rest in perpetual care can be spent for maintenance.
And so perpetual care, again, we're over 150,000 in that.
Correct, you're at 153,000. That fund has not grown now since I want to say about 2005 or 6, when we last brought up the discussion about possibly using perpetual care for some maintenance, capital maintenance funding. At that time, the commission was not in favor of using any of it for that, but they did agree to not put it at up until that time. I believe it was 1/3 of all grave sales went into perpetual care too. At that time, they chose to freeze it and not put any more money into perpetual care. So again, that's why we're at the figure that we are, that stays static.
I think we're getting a little off track. We're talking about the skid loader, and we can talk about some more of that during our budget session afterwards.
Yes, and so I'm just curious as to whether or not maybe we should amend the motion as to how this is going to be funded.
Okay.
Sorry. Just curious if we should consider amending the motion as to how this is going to be funded. I think it's fair to say that this skid steer loader needs to be purchased, but again, what the recommendation from the Parks Department, and which our city manager has concurred on, is that we're going to reduce the Phantom Memorial Park Trails replacement allocation. And we talked a lot about Phantom Memorial Park here tonight. Specifically, if we're going to be putting in a multi-million-dollar aquatics facility, I would like to make sure that that whole park is in the best position to succeed. When pictures are taken, when people are out and about walking these trails, let's make sure it's in the best position possible to succeed. Does that make sense? So I don't know whether or not this is something that we need to table at this time, just to talk a little bit more about the process if we were to draw down these funds. It's just surprising to me. These funds have been at this level for a long time. So what's the difference if we take out 11,600? Pretty good chance that the funds are going to be there again in a decade. I don't know why we need that much funding sitting there. I mean, the 50,000 that's required to stay there is one thing, but again, let's make sure our priorities are straight here. If we're going to put a multi-million-dollar aquatics facility at Phantom Memorial Park, then let's make sure that everything else in the park is in the best position as well.
I think one of the issues, though, is that you're overlooking is this will be used by the Parks Department, both in the cemetery and the parks. So, to me, it's fair to have the Parks Department pay for part of this.
Any more discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Mybom,
No.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Gross,
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 4 under new business is the Planning Commission plat review, memorandum 18-82 and resolution 18-20.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Gross,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye, motion carried. Moving on to number 5 under new business, the Planning Commission plat review, memorandum 18-83 regarding resolution 18-21.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question, what is he actually doing, Dave? It looks like he's taking little pieces out of a big piece of ground.
So at this point in time, we haven't received any plans for development related to the proposed plat. And again, it's in our 3-mile platting jurisdiction, so we don't have full subdivision ordinance requirements at our disposal here in reviewing it. So our goal is to make sure that the appropriate right-of-way is dedicated as a part of our street grid extension. And I agree, making a lot of smaller lots out of a bigger tract, but it meets the requirements of our code. So.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dave Mingo. Okay, any other discussion from the audience? Roll call, please.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Gross,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye, motion carried. Moving on to number 6 is a bid award for lift station gravity sewer interceptor, memorandum 18-77.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? The audience? Roll call, please.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Gross,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye, motion carried. Number 7, the final item under new business is a bid award for a truck, memorandum 18-78, resolution 18-22.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Gross,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye, motion carried. This time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And we'll be resuming in a couple minutes back to our